Hi, what's up everybody? This is Wizard1 bringing you the full review of the Xiaomi Mi Max International Edition, codename Hydrogen. This thing is a beast of a phone, as you can see when you compare it to the Xiaomi Note 4, which is a 5.5-inch screen, the Blueboo Mi Max, which is a 6-inch screen, and then the Xiaomi Mi Max, which is a 6.44-inch screen. So let's just put these aside first. Okay, so the Mi Max has, as I mentioned before, a 6.44-inch full HD screen with a 5 megapixel front-facing camera and a 16 megapixel back-facing camera. It as well has a infrared blaster on top here. Inside the Mi Max, it has a Snapdragon 650 Hexa core processor with 3 gigabytes of RAM, 32 gigabytes of ROM, and an equally massive 4,850 milliamp hour non-removable battery. For a full rundown of the specs of this phone, please check out my unboxing video for this phone. The total weight of this phone, if we just put this here, including the case, is 233 grams, which isn't overly heavy, so it doesn't feel like a brick when you're holding onto it. Just a word of caution now, this is going to be a very lengthy and in-depth review of the Mi Max. So if you are after specific aspects of this phone that you really want to know about, please check out the description below for links to specific parts of this review that you can just click and jump to. Software-wise, it comes pre-installed with Xiaomi's MIUI 8, but upon booting it up, MIUI 8 was pushed to it. Both are based around Android 6 Marshmallow. Then about a week later, a larger update of about 1.3 gigabytes was pushed to the phone with recent updates, and you can see that here. So if you know and follow my past videos, you know personally I prefer Nova Launcher over any other launcher. So this, what you're seeing now on this phone, is basically Nova Launcher. For those who want to know how to change the default launcher, all you need to do is install your preferred launcher. Then all you need to do is go into the settings, go to installed apps, then you click here to defaults, and you can choose which launcher you want to load. So you have the system original Xiaomi launcher and the Nova launcher that I have here. So also, as you can see, there's a list here on this page which allows you to change the default apps of such apps as the dialer app, the messenger app, the browser app, the camera app, the gallery app, music player, email, and video player. Perhaps later I will flash this phone with a different ROM, or maybe just root it, as you cannot disable the Google apps that are pre-installed on this phone. So you're typically left with about, sorry, one sec. You're typically left with about only 1 to 1.3 gigabytes of, if you can see here, there's even less now, but you're typically left with either 1 to 1.3 gigabytes of RAM space out of the 3 gigabytes available on this phone. Even when you go and optimize this phone by pressing on the left menu button as you did here, you're left with now just under 1 gig of RAM space. So let me just try doing that again, see if that does anything. Not much still. Okay, so let's look at the battery life for this phone, which is probably one of the biggest concerns people will have with any electronics in general. So, especially when you're talking about a 6.44-inch full HD screen, you're going to be really wary about how this phone handles battery life. So unlike some other brands that I have reviewed in the past, the Xiaomi has actually used their brains and put a large 4,000 2,850 milliamp hour battery into the Mi Max to support the rest of its hardware. While they advertise about 2 days of battery life for this phone, I think they meant this by mainly on standby power rather than mixed usage battery life. However, the hardware works in harmony together, and I'm easily able to power through an entire day without needing to recharge the phone on mixed usage. If you need to charge this phone, you need not have to worry that it'll take super long to fill up the 4,800 milliamp hour battery, as this phone supports Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3.0, and it gets a quick initial charge when you need it most. In terms of battery charging, let me just show you here. I believe this is this one. Nope. Okay, so if you can see here, this graph shows you the charging history of the phone using a standard 2 amp charging cable, and you can see here that it took about a little more than 3.5 hours to fully charge the large battery. Now if we just go back, so this graph here is charging the phone using my Oki 20,000 milliamp hour Quick Charge 3.0 certified power bank, and you can see here that the charging time was decreased by about an hour, so it only took about 2 hours and 40 minutes to fully charge this battery. Speaking about power, the phone itself has its own power consumption optimization system that is constantly running, rather than only activating it when the battery life goes under 10%. So at the very beginning of using this phone, I found it really annoying when apps such as Skype, Nest, eBay, and my battery monitoring program refused to stay running in the background or even in my notification bar. So here is how you personalize this phone to add specific apps to the whitelist so that you don't have to, so they don't get disabled or shut down while running in the background. So what you do is you go to the security section. Let me just find it. Where did it go? Security section here. Then you press the battery icon, and then you choose app battery saver, and you'll go to this list. So if you go from, let's just get out of this, there's 2 ways of getting there. You can go that way, or if you go into the settings, you can go to battery and performance, and then click on manage apps battery usage. So you can see here that MIUI has set it to restrict basically all background activities when possible, so that will help you to optimize and close any background stuff that you don't want. But as you can see here, you can also click on the choose apps list here, which will allow you to pick and choose whether or not there will be power saving restrictions on individual apps themselves. So if I clicked on, say, AVG antivirus here, you can see I can choose battery saver, which means that it will close it down to save power. No restrictions, meaning it will not, battery saving will not restrict it at all. You can restrict it completely, or you can just restrict some of the background activities. So I put no restrictions on it, and allow it to also use things like location in the background. Okay, so as I mentioned before, you sometimes get all the Google apps taking up a lot of resources in the background. So for such as that, you can also choose in there the Google apps such as Google Play, Music, Video, and Hangouts, and you can just disable them completely to prevent them from even starting up or running in the background. Okay, so this should only be an option to deal with these types of system apps, apart from either rooting or flashing the phone and removing them altogether. One thing to note regarding the software on this phone is that Xiaomi also included a feature on the Mi Max, which basically is a ripoff of Samsung's Knox software. So basically this feature, which Xiaomi calls second space, allows you to create a secondary operating Android environment on the phone that is completely independent of one another. While I don't personally find this any use, I'm sure a lot of people will use this to separate their mobile working environment with their personal mobile environment. So it's definitely a cool feature to have on this phone. The next thing we will look at is the reception of this phone. So this phone should be is supported by Bell, Rogers, and Telus in Canada. So let me just get out of this for a second. So it's supported by Bell, Telus, and Rogers in Canada. And I want to give prospective purchasers of this phone a warning before I continue. So make sure you go to the link found in the description to determine whether or not Band 7 LTE running at 2600 megahertz is deployed in your area, as this is the only LTE band supported by this phone. LTE Band 7 is deployment really depends on your city, as well as the widely installed places such as Toronto. But in places like Montreal, it is not widely deployed. So check out that that site first before you even contemplate buying this, because you might not even get LTE on this phone. You might only get 3G plus. Okay, so getting out of the way of that, I would say that the Mi Max by far is one of the best at making use of LTE over all the other Chinese smartphones I've tested so far. As you can see here from my speed test screenshot, the downstream on this phone ranged from 76 megabits per second all the way up to 105 megabits per second, which is phenomenal. Typically for Chinese phones, all I ever get is somewhere between 50 to 65 megabits per second speeds. While at the same time, the upstream on this device ranges between 23 megabits per second and 34 megabits per second, which is also great, as the average typically is between 15 to 23 megabits per second on other Chinese phones. Obviously, this will depend completely on your carrier and your location, but also this phone supports VoLTE, which allows for simultaneous voice as well as data usage at full LTE speeds. It is supported by Fido and Rogers, but I'm not completely sure if it's supported by the other two carriers, but check that out. Signal penetration is really good with this phone, as I get 4G reception in places that that don't typically really get decent reception, such as in Yorkdale Mall in the Pickle Barrel, which, if some of you might know, is actually underground under the mall, and I still get 4G reception on it. However, places that traditionally have horrible reception, such as various great Canadian superstores and especially Walmart superstores, I don't know why, still get bad reception. I think that's really due to the way those buildings are constructed rather than the phone itself. So somewhat related to reception of this phone is also the speed at which the phone can get a GPS lock on satellites. So let me just show you how fast this thing can pick up a GPS satellite. So I'll count down as I press this. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, 4, 1000. Okay, so let me just get out of this again. Not now. Try one more time. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000. Okay. Get out of this again. So you can see that GPS fix is super fast, only needing about 2 seconds to get a 3D fix and connect to a large number of satellites. You saw it took up basically the whole screen. On average, for many other phones I've tested in the past, you'll need somewhere between 4 to 7 seconds to get a 3D GPS fix, and usually it only fixes maybe like 3 or 4 satellites at a time and not all of them at one time. So the Mi Max is definitely exemplary on this. In terms of the internals of the phone, you can see that the phone has, let me just quickly load the testing. So the internals of the phone here, you can see that we have internal sensors of the accelerometer, a gyroscope, a compass, magnetic field, proximity sensor, light sensor, and even a step detector. So I guess if you were to download a step tracking app on this phone, you'd be able to track that as well on your steps, which I don't think many Chinese phones typically have built into their phones. I know for sure like the Galaxy phones have it, but for Chinese phones not so much. Furthermore, internal phone, it also has a notification light which is up here, which is a must feature for any phone that I own. It's customized through the settings here. Let me just try to find it. I don't know. Additional settings, notification light here. So you can see that you can modify and change the colors to whatever you like, and also change what triggers the notification lights. Okay, so the remaining system internals for the phone is that we have a Qualcomm 6-core CPU, also known as the 650. In our unboxing, the Antutu Benchmarks for this phone, let me just pull that up right now. Where did it go? So initially the benchmarks for this phone resulted in a score of 78,582. After I loaded all the apps that I have on that I normally used on my daily routine and whatnot, I ran the benchmark again. Let me just get out of here, sorry. I ran the benchmark again, and you can see that it came out with a score of 78,178. So it's not a huge drop, about a 300 to 400 point drop for compared to the original benchmark score. Okay, so we mentioned before that we have a 6.44 inch beautiful full HD 1080 by 1920 display with a pixel density of 440 pixels per inch. It offers vibrant colors as well as excellent viewing angles. So let me pull up some where did it go? Some wallpapers to hopefully give you an idea of what it looks like. So you can see this extremely sharp pictures, very nice viewing angles. Oops. Here's another one. We have extremely nice viewing angles on this device, so you get a sense of the quality of the screen. One more thing to note, it wasn't really until I bought a TPU case for this device that I really started to really enjoy this phone. The phone itself has a full metal body, which makes it extremely slippery to hold especially with one hand. It isn't until I bought this case that it makes it far more easy to handle without it slipping out of the hand. Plus, for me, because I use a magnetic metal plate here that I use to mount on the phone, it makes it very convenient for me. On the other hand, pardon the pun, those of you that do not have large hands can still enjoy the Mi Max in all its glory. And how is that? So, the phone itself has a feature called one-handed mode, and it is activated by swiping from left to right across the 3 capacitive buttons here. So if we swipe across, you'll see the mode activate. You can change if you want it on the left side or the right side, but I have it on the right side because that's normally the hand I use it. So it basically shrinks the display to a much manageable area so that you can do what you want to do one-handed without needing to struggle to contort your hand and your fingers to reach across the entirety of the huge 6.44 inch screen. So you could basically use it as you would normally use it on a much smaller area, and you can reach everywhere with it without having to stretch. And all you do is you click on the screen again to bring it back to normal. Okay, the internal back-facing 16 megapixel camera is also quite excellent. It's extremely fast at taking pictures, so let's just give you an example. So just watch down here. Super fast at taking pictures. Okay, there's absolutely no shutter lag. The camera, let's get off here. The camera app itself allows for such modes as panorama mode. You want to put a timer on it. An audio mode, which basically means that if you give an audio cue like hey or whatnot, or go or take a picture, it will actually count down and take the picture for you. There's an auto straighten. There's a beautify tilt shift, which basically just blurs the border of the top and bottom of the frame, or gives you a circular frame, blurred frame around the picture that you're trying to take a picture of. There is also a mode called HT mode, or handheld twilight mode, which stacks 6 frames in high ISO together in order to minimize the amount of noise typically found in high ISO pictures. The last mode is basically the manual mode here, which gives you a lot more customization in the settings before you take your picture. This allows you to adjust things such as the white balance, the focus, the exposure time, and the ISO settings. Looking at the video capabilities of the back-facing camera, this phone is actually able to film at full 4K resolution, full HD at 1080p, as well as HD at 720p and other lower resolution options. On the top of that, you are able to also film in You're able to film in slow motion mode, but this is only able to film at max 1080p and also time-lapse mode. So check out the full raw videos here to check out the ones that I've actually done using this phone, because if I were to include it in this review, they would get downsampled, as the video that I'm using to film this now is only 720p. You will see that the 4K raw video is very sharp and clear and can pick up a lot of movement while also keeping focus at all times. If I can find a really good mount for this phone, I'm going to really consider switching over to this phone to do my review videos, as I think that you guys will really benefit from my videos being shot in 4K resolution. Oh, that also reminds me, there's one annoyance that I want to really point out with this phone. For whatever reason, MTP mode of USB is disabled on this phone. I'm not sure which developers decided to that this would be a really good idea, but yeah. So I've tried installing the Xiaomi USB drivers on my computer. I've also tried downloading various USB MTP enablers for this phone. I've tried going into developer mode and crap, how do I get out of this? Okay, so I've tried going into developer mode, into various other modes, and I cannot get this to work. I'm not sure why, but even when I enable MTP mode in developer mode or the other apps, it does not activate. So this means it's extremely annoying that I cannot plug this phone directly into my computer and easily drag and drop files between these two devices. So luckily the phone does support OTG, so I can easily just plug in a flash drive. Oops, sorry. I can definitely just plug in a flash drive into the phone, and then copy. So the USB drive is there. I can easily do that and copy files over from especially like video files or just pictures in general over from the phone to the USB, and then later on from the USB to my computer. It is quite annoying that I have to do this extra step, but yeah, that's what I have to deal with this phone until maybe I do a little more research and figure out how to get this to work. So wow, so far this has been quite a long review, 25 minutes already, and I'm not done yet, but we're nearing the finish line, so hang in there. So two last things I want to really talk about is the sound quality of the internal of the sound quality of the internal speaker, and how the phone handles resource heavy apps. So recently during Black Friday, I bought the Power Amp app, which was on sale for, I think it was like $1 US, and because I've been hearing extremely good things about it, and I decided it was a great idea to pick it up for my reviews. So let me just play some music for you so you can hear the quality of the speaker. Okay, so hopefully those don't trigger the YouTube copyright triggers. But so as you can hear, the Mi Max's speakers is actually quite loud and quite good. I think that was full sound, but you can hear that it has really deep basses and actually clear, crisp trebles. I'm pretty happy with the overall performance with the speakers in general. So lastly, I want to look at how the phone handles and performs with games. So as usual, I'll be testing this with Gameloft's Asphalt 8 on the Nevada track. So let me just quickly let me just clear the memory on this phone. Okay, nothing in the cache. Let me just start up my my CPU tracking monitoring program here. Okay, so that's running now, and let me just quickly get out of here and go into Asphalt 8. Oh shoot, sorry. Okay, that's enough of that. Okay, so I killed myself multiple times there. Let me just get out of there. So if you saw that, you can see that basically the phone handles this game relatively well. Throughout the gameplay of the phone, it basically runs on an average load of 20% of full CPU capacity. So this phone can definitely handle a lot more load than just Asphalt 8 alone. And also, as you saw, the phone performs really well. The gameplay, the graphics are extremely detailed and smooth. So I think that's really about it in terms of the full review of the Xiaomi Mi Max 6.44-inch monster phablet. Overall, it has a beautiful, sharp, full HD display with more than enough computing power behind it to allow for extremely versatile and enjoyable phone/entertainment experience. The very strong LTE reception, again, that is contingent on where you are though. The support for VoLTE and the super fast GPS allows you to basically use this phone where you want, how you want, and whenever you want. Coupled with the amazing camera and video abilities, this phone has become my main go-to phone for the foreseeable future. It is an all-around great phone at a very, very reasonable price. I picked this up around Black Friday for $179.99 at GearBest. That's a US price, so a very reasonable price for such a great phone. Thanks again for taking the time to watch my review. If you have any other questions, concerns, or comments regarding this review or any of my other reviews, please leave me a comment below and I'll do my best to answer you as promptly as possible. As you can see here, I also will be doing reviews soon for the Xiaomi Note 4, as well as this virtual VR headset that I also bought during Black Friday. If you enjoyed this review and want to see more, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. This has been Wizard1 reviewing the Xiaomi Mi Max. Thanks for watching and have yourself a great day.